Welcome to episode 124 of the Sports Marketing Machine podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Nizer. Today we're diving into football marketing, and I've got two of the best minds that I know, Scott Peace from University of Northern Iowa and Kelly Wilga from Sacramento State. And we're going to cover everything you need to know about getting people to your games, how to plan, how to promote, and how to maximize your football season from start to finish. Here's what you're going to learn in this episode: how to plan your football season strategy from the moment the schedule hits your desk, why student engagement is critical, especially early in the season, smart ways to stretch a tight budget and still deliver big-time results, and how to build theme nights that boost attendance and stay on brand. Plus, you'll hear about hot dogs in basketball arenas, tattoo artists at wrestling meets, and how wild promotions can be done right, even at the college level. So if you're a ticket marketer looking to sharpen your skills this season, looking for some additional ideas, this episode is just for you. Let's go. Super excited to talk football marketing, planning, promotions, and getting more people to the games. Two of the best that I know from the University of Northern Iowa, the Senior Associate AD for Revenue Generation, Scott Peace. Thanks for joining us. And
Absolutely.
From Sacramento State, Assistant Athletic Director of Marketing, Kelly Wilga. Welcome, gents.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to talk all about marketing, promoting your football season, because this is the time of the year where teams and universities are starting to plan this, and this is relevant for D1, D2, D3, all of the above. So let's just start from the beginning. Let's just say you were just handed the football schedule. What's the first thing that you guys start to do as you start to take a look at it? Is it more budget planning? You start thinking about like planning of dates of homecoming and promotions. Where do we start when it gets placed on your desk?
Yeah, so specifically for this year, outside of the initial shock of having 3 straight home games in September, we start working kind of backwards from planning homecoming with our alumni association, getting that date placed. It's typically around the same time every year. And then major partners and promotions that are important to them. It's 2 local businesses for us that are 2 of the kind of headliners, if you will. Get those locked in and kind of go from there as far as getting those all placed, what makes sense in the flow of the year, things of that nature. Our president likes to highlight stuff the university does, so he had specific kind of initiatives he wanted us to promote, and we kind of just took the larger picture and kind of started placing those pieces and started getting everything laid out and what kind of worked well with the flow. It took a little puzzle making here and there, just to say like, all right, what if we do it on this day as opposed to this day? But yeah, that's kind of the broad approach initially.
Scott?
It's pretty similar for us. I think homecoming and then family weekend are kind of the 2 staples every year that ultimately kind of define the season and honestly how successful we'll be. Those are by far the 2 biggest. We made some major progress in that regard, where we actually have the next several years planned out in terms of dates. So that's been super helpful to kind of have that established as kind of the natural starting point. So we were able to do that. I think for a lot of us, it's really hard to ever turn it off. Like you're always thinking about what's next. So like a lot of the planning for us, I feel like almost starts during the season before, even if it's just, what's going really well, what's not, what needs to just be improved upon or tweaked. There's so many times where I'll be like right in the middle of a season and I'll think of something great that's too late to implement that year, but you just kind of sit on it. So, similar. We kind of establish those key dates and kind of work backwards from there. one thing that's somewhat unique to us is just playing indoors in a dome. Um, I've been to schools where it's almost two different seasons where you have the nice weather for the first three, and then just forget it for the last two kind of thing. So we always say it's 72 and sunny every game here in the Unidome, which is true inside, but not necessarily outside. It is still a challenge to get people out, but I think from a high level point, we established those dates. We started thinking where we can plug in things that worked from the year before, those ideas that we were sitting on kind of mid-season, and then go from there.
Now, when you start kind of thinking about the budget side of things, you've got your schedule, you start planning that out. Where do you start and timelines start? What does that all look like internally? And then how much of the budget are you thinking about from student engagement, trying to get the students to come, and then the general population? So, Scott, I'll start with you on that one, and then Kelly.
Sure, yeah. So kind of like I said, you start having those high level initial thoughts the year before, and then all of a sudden crossover season happens and you're playing basketball too, and maybe those thoughts come a little less frequently, but they're always still in the back of the mind. I think for us, that real serious kind of budget marketing plan conversations usually start in March for us, kind of on the tail end of basketball as that's wrapping up. You know, our approach has typically been we'll kind of put together like a shell of a plan, give us something that we could present to the staff, and then we kind of work through it from there. So we'll kind of create those initial thoughts, those high level plans, something to present. We'll start having meetings with football staff, vendors that are going to provide some of our giveaway items, things like that, typically around May. And then right about this time of year in July is typically when we'll be kind of forward facing with what we're doing. We actually just announced our promotional calendar for football earlier this week, so that kind of puts that into perspective a little bit. In terms of allocation, I think we have a pretty healthy split of our budget across a lot of different mediums. You almost have to check all these boxes now to really feel like you have a comprehensive program. So whether it's paid advertising, we have thankfully a lot of trade deals locally with print, radio, TV, and a lot of other vendors that help us out a ton. UNI is a big part of the community, and they respond well to that. Balancing that student promotion versus regular fan promotion and how those all interact. And then how you can kind of work with campus and kind of tap into some maybe existing student organizations, other department funds, and have mutually beneficial activations. So all the above is never a great answer. I understand that, but I think it is honestly kind of the case.
What about you, Kelly?
Honestly, very similar. Kind of start having those that kind of big wish list in March of hey, this is really what we'd like to do, and once I guess budget reality starts setting in, you start whittling down to, all right, what do we really want? What's the most important? What can we really have a big impact with going into the next year with driving attendance and things like that? So you kind of just you start with that the dreams, and then reality sets in, and you gotta do with what you got at that point. But very similar, pretty solid spread across different mediums, whether it's static billboards, paid social media, utilizing partners, working with campus to generate some different interest from clubs, groups on campus, departments, things of that nature, pooling resources when it comes to stuff like that. And it's very similar to what they're doing at UNI, and I imagine probably pretty similar across most of college sports. So it's like Scott was saying, it never really kind of shuts off, and you just put it in the back of your mind while you're in the middle of basketball season, and then once that kind of wraps up, you're like, all right, here we go, start getting ready.
Love it. Looking back at last year, and then you look at this year, is there one budget line item you look back and you wish you had more this year to be able to do more with. So you got your Santa Claus wish list, right? And then it gets whittled down. Is there one line item you're like, gosh, I wish we just had a little bit more in this bucket because of.
That's a good question. I mean, you can never. I mean, we always want more money, to do the things that we want to do. So, I mean, for just how things are trending with, the digital spaces and stuff like that, just being able to really kind of flood that zone with, paid social media or digital retargeting, things along those lines, just stuff that can do work for you, kind of in the background, not so much of the, day in and day out work, but let those platforms and, avenues do the work, and get your content in front of people. I mean, an endless digital budget would be absolutely amazing, but that's
That would
not
be
reality.
glorious.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure Scott feels the same. You can never have enough money to get your messaging out. So I mean, I would say just digital for sure.
Mm-hmm. Scott?
Definitely agree with that, but for the sake of this, I'll take it another direction. I think um, I'd say our tailgating and our just overall kind of big moment experiences with in-game. I think we took a lot of positive steps forward on the tailgating front to get back to part of the tradition. I mean, so many people come to games because they like to tailgate with their friends and they go inside, and that's such a big part of the football culture. So I wish we could invest a little bit more into continuing to take positive steps forward. And then once you get inside, I mean, we are limited in a little bit. We can't go lights out, for example, like when the team, again, we're indoors, but just with the age of the lighting, we don't have the ability to do that quick turnaround right now. So I feel like we're missing sometimes some of those like eye popping, like kind of give you chills moments before the game and halftime and things like that. Like, we played at Nebraska last year and you look at what they do during some of the timeouts and things like that. I'd love to be riding around on a golf cart with a flamethrower or whatever it may be, but that's kind of, the first thing to go a lot of times on the Santa Claus wish list. So, I guess the overarching answer is just the fan experience and some of those like really memorable, big, like wow moments.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's move to student promotions and student engagement. So, what's the approach to driving student attendance, especially in the early part of the season when the students are there on campus and there's a little bit of some buzz around the football season? What are you doing to get the students to come to the game? Scott, I'll let you take this one to start.
Yeah, sure. I think you're right. There's such a you can just feel it in the air when a new semester starts and it's fall and everything's new and exciting. So I think we like to capitalize on that. Typically, our first three football games of the year are by far the best attended, and from a student standpoint, and I don't know, it just has this kind of spirit of optimism and all those things. So we really try to one educate the new students that come to campus on, first of all, just how it works logistically. This is how you download your ticket. These are the traditions, but then more importantly, this is why you should support your fellow student athletes. And I think the goal everywhere is always to just kind of make that the thing that people do, so that way as they continue and they become upperclassmen and new underclassmen come in, it's just the standard. That's the normal. That's what we do here, is come to these games. I think that's always the goal, is to increase that a little bit with each new incoming class. We try to partner with campus a lot. We try to get across campus, as they say at a lot of places, and get across the street and be visible in the places that the students are, whether it's the union, for example. We have some plans to even just take golf carts around with the football team and deliver kids to class that maybe lost on the first couple of weeks, that kind of thing. So we just want to be visible. We want to show ourselves that we're good campus partners. And of course, anytime you can partner with campus, obviously homecoming and family weekend, we talked about that, are huge. But how can we have a mutually beneficial experience using the athletics platform? Where else can you find 12,000 people, kind of captive audience? So we try to play into that a little bit and let people know that we're here to be good partners and want to find mutually beneficial ways to promote the campus as a whole.
Love it, love it. Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, again, very similar. Definitely try and get involved with campus events as much as possible. So we got new student orientation. We had transfer students last month. New student or incoming freshmen, excuse me, just started on Monday. So we're out there tabling, letting students know, telling them to follow us on social media. Here's how you go to games, get your tickets, all of that stuff. Involved heavily with move-in weekend as well, to kind of hit them again right before school starts. Anyone we didn't come across with orientation. But similar, those first few games are typically the most heavily student attended. There's still, hope for a great season at that point. It could either keep progressing or, it takes a turn for the worse. So there's at least, that hope in the air. But the way I kind of look at it, especially for my responsibilities on game day, being the game producer, is trying to put on the best show possible. Especially at that first game, which is always tough because it is the first game of the season. But, it's your chance to show all the new students like how fun these games are, and kind of tying into, what Scott was saying on that last question with the fan experience pieces, making sure it's, an exciting game, being able to control the things that we can control on the experience piece, whether it's engagement with partner giveaways and stuff like that, throughout the game, fun videos to play, interactive stuff, dance cams, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves to see themselves on a video board. The jumbo board, yep. But yeah, I mean, it's really just kind of putting your best foot forward from the jump. Really show all the students, even ones who are returning that never really came out to games, or just all the incoming freshmen, that this is the place to be on Saturday nights in Sacramento. And it's you get the messaging out as much as possible, and it never feels like it reaches the amount that it should, but you just kind of keep chipping away at it, and just flooding the zone, whether it's social, text messages to students, emails, being around campus with digital signage, A-frames, things of that nature. Just really trying to be out and open around campus while students are here, and keeping us top of mind.
Along those lines, either in your current role or in your previous life, what incentives have you seen worked that got students to the games?
I mean, number one, I'm sure for Scott as well, giveaways. Students love free stuff. And even things that you're required to give out with, partners or whatever, seeing those around campus, they love the free stuff. So we try and do, kind of a mix, just from feedback that we've gotten, where we'll try and come up with more affordable food deals through concessions and things of that nature. But T-shirts, hats, it always hits. And obviously the cooler to design, the better engagement and attendance. So that obviously plays an important part to it. But giveaways are kind of the bread and butter for getting students there.
Scott?
I love a good giveaway, so obviously that's a big part of it. I think last couple places I've been, tried to be really intentional about the creativity behind, even if it is just a T-shirt, like really going the extra mile to make it something that's kind of eye-catching, or just finding something that's maybe priced similar to a T-shirt, but it's something they may not have before, or just a little bit more exciting, kind of cuts through the clutter of another T-shirt or whatever it may be. We typically do some scholarship giveaways throughout the year, which we always see an increase in attendance when when we do those. So that's, it's kind of a giveaway in a different sense, but real money for someone. Um, I don't know, maybe less of an incentive too, but just really trying to create those kind of like FOMO experiences at the games, and just two examples for us this past year wasn't football, but we had hot tubs at a basketball game. There were definitely people who saw that on social media and weren't there and wished they were, and we saw a tick up in attendance after that, just so people could kind of see what we were going to do next. And then at a wrestling duel, we had a live tattoo artist that gave fans real tattoos during a wrestling duel. So those were things that were not happening at UNI in the past. It was very traditional the last probably decade or so here, and so we really wanted to grab people's attention and kind of let people know that this isn't going to be the same old experience that you've had. We have a largely new staff from AD down and across external, so we all kind of bought into that together. Like, what are we going to do to kind of create these experiences that people don't want to miss out? So with year one under the belt, that's definitely made an impact for sure.
Yeah, with that point, how do you kind of balance these fun promotions and even eventually theme nights that you may end up doing while staying on brand with the university? How do you balance that? That's got to be really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two examples I just gave were maybe good extreme examples of that. Obviously, um, we didn't just do those in a vacuum and hope no one cared. Like we had to jump through more and we could probably do an episode just on the hoops we jumped through on that. But we involved, from an internal standpoint, we got Learfield involved, for example, and so there was that component of it to make sure we were maximizing this opportunity. We had to get legal involved. We had to get risk management involved. For the tattoos in particular, we had to get the president involved and make sure he wasn't good, because he comes to all of our events. We wanted to make sure he wasn't walking in and saw some guy getting a UNI tattoo on his arm, and that was the first he was hearing of it. So, and then everything in between. And so, I mean, the health inspector had to come. It was a whole thing. But I don't know. I think that it's kind of, maybe that wasn't totally on brand for UNI. I don't think you think of hot tubs or tattoos when you think in Northern Iowa, but I think what it did show was that willingness to have fun and have a personality behind our marketing and what we're doing. Like I said in the last answer, just that willingness to think outside the box and not settle. It was less about the hot tubs and tattoos. It's just, we're not going to settle for the norm anymore, and we're going to try new things and take risks and things like that. So incredibly grateful for an athletic director that was supportive of things like this, because you can imagine what's going through my head when I walk in the door to kind of give her the hear me out speech on this, and to not be shut down at that moment. And all the way up to the president, he had fun with it. He showed up to the hot tub game in a Hawaiian shirt and was a good sport about it all. So maybe not totally on brand, but I think it was really positive publicity for the university. And I think even if you boil it down to the enrollment conversation of prospective students, to see that going on at a place in like Cedar Falls, Iowa, that you maybe didn't expect. So maybe not for everybody. We got zero negative feedback somehow on both of those.
That's awesome.
So that's hard to believe. But yeah, no one was offended. No one got hurt. And so overall it was a win.
Yeah, and got people talking about you. What about you, Kelly? You guys tend to lean more conservative and not take as many risks, right?
More so, yeah. It's definitely something that my boss and myself, our background is coming from minor league baseball, where it's quite a bit of risks and kind of just really try and hope stuff sticks, and you don't get too much negative press or anything like that with some of the crazy things that you try and do. So we're trying to get to that point of where Scott's at right now with UNI, of having those kind of out of the box ideas. It's we're obviously in a different setup than a minor league team, where you kind of have the guardrails in place with the campus, president, AD, larger CSU system you got to worry about, and things of that nature. So it's trying to find those that can fit within that guardrail, if you will, of not being too out there where people are gonna be upset that, like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is insane. So yeah, it's something we're trying to get to, and something he brings up constantly to me, to try and lean on some of these things. But yeah, it's you're always looking for that fun idea to get something at, and we'll typically do those for the volleyballs, the basketballs, baseball and softball, where you kind of have a little bit more leeway with the number of games, where it's not so much of a, all right, if this is a dud, it's not gonna hurt revenue too much type of thing. We tend to, with football, kind of stick with the bread and butter and keep it as broad as possible, from at least the general promotion idea of it all, but then kind of get more specific underneath that, to try and build in those things to it. But yeah, I mean, it's something, I'm gonna bring up. I know they'd be interested in the tattoo idea and the hot tub, so we'll see if we can drum something up with that.
This is I don't know if you knew this, Kelly, but Kelly's boss is a guy named Andy who hired me many, many moons ago for the River Cats. And Andy, when he was with the River Cats, he did this promotion called Who's in the Can, basically brought out a porta potty and put someone inside, and people had to guess who was in the can. So Andy comes from the wild and crazy creative side. So yeah, so a lot of fun, goofiness for sure.
Yeah, it's he's mentioned that story a few times, but yeah, it's from that that world, when you got 70 somewhat home games to fill, and it's not always the best product on the field. At least for my first team, being with we were high A at the time, so a lot of developmental pieces, a lot of errors and things like that happening during the game. So you really just kind of just go crazy with it and just hope something hits. And we were pretty good more often than not, but there's definitely a few where you're just like, yeah, we're probably not going to do that one again. So
Yeah. So, and it leads me to the topic of like creating theme nights. It seems like in college athletics over the last 15 years, more and more college football teams are planning theme nights to sell a boatload of tickets. Where before it wasn't, this is kind of like their first dipping in the toes of the creativity and doing silly things to get people out. But theme nights, Scott, you've done a bunch. Where do you start on building theme nights, and what do they look like?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to have a kind of a wide variety of experiences at the different schools that I've been at. So, a couple stops ago at Evansville, small private school in the Missouri Valley Conference, no football, 1,800 students, a lot of challenges with all the above. But they had tremendous community support. So there, it was really all about how do we get your traditional community member fan to the game. Like if we had 100 students at a basketball game, that was a huge win for us to kind of put that all into perspective. So 95% of the eggs were in the fan basket. Then I leave there and go to Kent State, where it's almost the complete opposite, where you're in Kent, Ohio, but all of a sudden there's 25,000 students on your immediate campus, almost double that across the Kent State system in Northeast Ohio. Um, and the priority at that time, and I'm sure it's maybe shifted since I've left a little bit with the changing landscape, but it was students, and that was the goal, was getting students there. Um, More than any place I've ever been, there was a clear understanding of the value that athletics can have on areas like enrollment, like we mentioned earlier, and they saw the value of that. And we were able to work together to do a lot of cool things, but again, kind of student focused. Now here at Northern Iowa, it's a really healthy mix of both of those things. You know, we're kind of a mid-sized university hovering between 9 and 10,000 students, but also have that tremendous community support. Over the last 2 decades, there's been a ton of success to kind of hang your hat on at a place like UNI. So it's really interesting to kind of have that balance, because here there is no clear direction of I need to take it one way or the other. It's how can we find ways to do things, sometimes separate, sometimes together. to get the people in the building that you want. Of course, then on top of everything else is the increasing importance of revenue and how that all shapes into things. So I think it really just depends on where you're at, and what the priorities are and things like that. I think that's where you need to start is who am I trying to get? What's our goal, whether it be, attendance, dollars, both, whatever it may be. So that's kind of a good starting point. And as we're learning here, I like to kind of get a little weird sometimes and creative and um, do things that are going to cut through the clutter and be noticed.
Yeah. Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, the enrollment piece is obviously very big for just the campus as a whole. The more students, the more revenue coming in for them, and all that. So it's kind of a mixed bag. What's going to get people in the door? What's important to your partners, as far as if they're putting some big dollars behind a specific theme or anything like that, or promotion. Doing stuff for students to increase that. One of the big things here at Sac State is we've, over the last few years, tried to get away from the commuter school kind of tag, with more beds on campus, and tying into that is trying to build up that specifically with football, that pregame tailgating, the place to be on a Saturday, get people decked out in green and gold, going crazy at the games and things like that. So it's kind of a little bit of everything. There's a lot of stuff we got to think about and have in the back of our mind. At the end of the day, it's, will this get people through the door? Because we're all tasked with generating as much revenue as possible, increasing attendance, all of that. So it's really what's going to be those pieces, but it's you got to look at it through the larger lens of campus as a whole and their goals, and being a good partner, trying to elevate the programs that they want to highlight, and like Scott mentioned earlier, it's you have thousands of people at a football game, and they're a captive audience. So what story are you gonna tell? What are you gonna show them? And things like that. So one of the things we're looking at this year specifically is highlighting a different either college or department within campus, and kind of tying some themes around that. Some more new degree programs, things of that nature, anything that we can highlight to people to kind of use athletics as that kind of window into the university. If you have just a local Sacramento family come to a game, and we're like, oh hey, check out our new Black Honors College or Native American College, new AI degree that's going to be coming out, or if it hasn't already. Things like that, where it's we have the audience, people are interested. Most people aren't just scrolling through the campus's website just to see what's new and stuff like that, but they are seeing what's new with the athletics and what's going on. So it's you kind of gotta, it's all important to various people on campus, whether they're within the athletic department or main campus as a whole, and you just kind of got to thread that needle between all those groups, and trying to hit every one of those pieces to get that going.
Yeah. Let's talk about lessons learned. You guys have been through some football seasons. You've seen some things, taken good notes. What are some things that you're doing differently this season, based on kind of some takeaways and some thoughts from last season? So Scott, you can lead us off on this one.
I think we're in a little bit of a unique situation this year in that we're renovating the dome, really the first major renovation to the building in 49 years, I guess. It turns 50 next year. So we were able to really kind of go through the exercise and take a deep dive and completely reseating the venue, which was really a great opportunity. So we're partnered on the ticket side with Playfly Aspire. We have a team of 3 on campus here, and then we were able to get some of their kind of data analytics pricing people at the corporate level to come in for like a 2-day workshop, and we really went through it on a deep dive and did it right. So it's been such a cool exercise to see from start to finish. It was tough because the renovations are still ongoing and they aren't done, so we kind of really had to paint the picture, as they say, for people as they came in. But what's unique about it is before we had 3 huge suites on our west side, and then we had basically 16,000 identical bleacher seats with a scalloped metal back, and there was no difference between the seating other than like your point of view on the what yard line you're on or whatever. So now we have several different types of seating. So it really allowed us to kind of stretch certain price points. When we talk about driving revenue, there's about 300 new what we're calling club seats that are like the really nice leather logo on the back of the chair seats. We've never had kind of a premium option like that before. So we have that, and then now those 3 large suites are going to become 10 smaller ones, a little more intimate, a little more traditional in the sense, if you think of a suite with the area in the back with the counter, seats in the front. So we just have all these new things to kind of work with and in different price points, and we've already seen revenue grow. We've seen a lot of excitement. We're able to pair that. I haven't even mentioned this yet, but we just hired a new football coach in the off season too. So to pair new coach, new dome, all that excitement together has made for a really interesting, exciting off season.
It sounds like, Kelly, your off season's been lots of headlines in the news.
Quite a bit. Similar boat there. We are working towards getting a new stadium eventually, but given everything with the new coach we got this year, the recruits he's been able to bring in, and things like that, where we can't just with our facility, Jeremy, I know you've been there, but not the best in any stretch of the imagination. So it's you kind of have to strike while the iron's hot with all the the news surrounding the program with the coach, the recruits, and things like that. And we didn't want to sit back and just say like, all right, well the new stadium's on the way, but here's what we have again, kind of thing. So did a similar kind of thing where we came up with some new seating areas. Gonna have a section that's on the field behind the end zone, roughly about, I think it's 550 seats down there. Tie that in with a beer garden behind it to give people another spot to get food and beverage. Expanding, last year was the first year we had like an on-field kind of suite with one of our partners, which went really well. So we expanded that out to now 3 of them, and some different seating that we were able to kind of upgrade a little bit with some padded seats on some of our bleachers to kind of, it's not a leather seat with the logo on the back, but it's no longer just a piece of metal that you're sitting on either. So it's you kind of see what worked, what didn't work, like with the suite that went really well for us on field. So grew that out, and just kind of being able to provide these new options, and kind of similar to what Scott was saying with stretching some of these price points, where it's it's still a GA seat, but now it's on field with a seat back, or it's with a padded seat that's still within the 30-yard line on either side. So just little things like that you just try and things you can execute in an off season, which without having the full new stadium to work with, it's just little improvements you can do here or there. We're working on getting the lights that you can turn on and off, so building that into the pregame show, getting some digital A-frames instead of static A-frames down by the goal lines. Great spot for partners, as well as some in-game pieces and things like that. So we're excited with what we're getting. Again, it's not a new stadium because what we have is certainly tough currently, but working within that framework of, all right, it's on the way. Like, let's not just rest on our laurels, and really try and improve what we have. Should have a great team this year. Got a great coach, and just really try and capitalize on all that.
Love it, love it, love it. As we start getting closer to wrapping this up here, a couple questions to get us closer to the finish line. If a marketer from another school is listening to this, and they only have one time, this is the time to get one thing right this season, what do you think it should be? Should it be the fan experience, the revenue generation, the ads? What do you think, if they could get one thing right this year, what do you think it would be? Scott?
I think for me, and I've kind of hinted at this a couple times throughout the conversation, is just delivering a really positive and impactful game day fan experience. And we all know a lot goes into that. But I'm a firm believer, if you can get that right first, a lot of those other things you mentioned, Jeremy, like the revenue and filling the stands, will come as a result of that. And that's how you get people to come back more than once. So I'd say just really focus on that fan experience, driveway to driveway, if you want to call it that. Just really make sure you get the controllable things like that tightened up.
Kelly?
Yeah, 100% agree. When you're getting people through the gates, putting on the best show you possibly can, and that's from parking all the way through the end of the game and leaving, and making sure they have a good experience. Word of mouth is usually an afterthought, because it's so passive as far as with what we're concerned. But being able to put on that really good show for the people that are here, get them to come back, get them to tell their friends and family, get them out to a game, and those other pieces kind of take care of themselves. Obviously, you got to get them there first, but it's really focusing on capitalizing on the ones that are there and making sure they're having a great time, and it's something they want to come back for multiple games or turn into season ticket holders or anything like that. So definitely, fan experience and presentation and all that.
Last question here. What advice would you give marketing directors, marketing coordinators, got a small team, small budget? Would you recommend them focus on putting a good portion of their budget towards the fan experience and a good portion of their budget to get fans to the games? How would you kind of structure it? If you're a small team, small budget, how would you kind of look at kind of the budget and implementing it just to get people there, and fan experience will get them to want to come back?
It's a great question. The old do more with less. I would say really take a look at things that are already in place and really take a deep dive on how efficient it is, what your ROI is for anything that you do, anything you're putting money towards. What are you actually getting out of it? One of the things at my previous stop at UC Davis, we did tabling on campus leading up, like the 4 days before a football game, basically. And we were always in the same area at the same time. And once I started thinking about it more and looking at it and realized we're seeing the same students every week. This is a campus with 30,000 students, and we're seeing the same ones. So it's really kind of taking those things where, it's important to be out and visible on campus. So how do we tweak this to where we're all over campus? We're moving around, hopping on the golf carts, going to different areas at different times, things like that. So, there's many stops I've been at and this one included, where it's small teams, small budgets, and you got to just really capitalize on what you have. So I'm always a fan of looking at ways to be more efficient and stretch that dollar as far as it can go. All the things that you mentioned, Jeremy, whether it's trying to focus on getting fans there or the experience, it's all important. And you just kind of got to see, all right, hey, can I cut some money here because we can do this more efficiently and put this towards more of a social spend budget, or hey, campus has given us the avenue to promote this to students via this way that's not costing us anything. So let's focus on, once we get students there, what are we going to do to make a good time for them? So, it's being creative, thinking outside the box, trying to come up with new ways to reach people that, that are more affordable and efficient. That's kind of, you got to be agile, and you got to pounce on things when they come up. So, that's what I would say.
Yeah, Scott, I know you've been in the shoes before, so what advice would you have?
No doubt. I was going to say, I think the entirety of my career has been on a small team with a tight budget, so maybe plenty to say on this topic. I think first, to Kelly's point, pretty much everywhere I've been has kind of felt like a rebuild in a way, from like a marketing department standpoint specifically, whether it be best practices or starting to think creatively or whatever it may be. But with that comes reevaluating everything that has been done up to that point. I think what you find sometimes is, why have we been doing XYZ for the last 5 years and pouring?
Yep.
You pour $5,000 into something, and then you just check the box. And you're like, well, wait a minute, what are we actually getting from a return standpoint? I think the example you gave about the tabling is another great one, where it's, well, that's where the table's always been, and when we've always done it, and we do it, like, that's the type of thing that needs to be reevaluated. I think another thing, like when you talk about tight budgets and small teams and things like that, just never, I guess, accept the reality that you're in as the end all be all for your situation. Excuses aren't helpful. The oh wells, this is what we were given, this is what we can work with. That's just not the full picture, I don't think. So just have that mindset of finding a way to accomplish what you want, and there's plenty of ways you can do that. What campus relationships can you leverage where they have a budget, maybe you're sharing expenses? I'm a really big believer in the campus relationships, because I think once you build that, it just goes a long way. Community partnerships, from an MMR standpoint, what community partnerships can you leverage? How can you get giveaways or some other things you're trying to accomplish done through that avenue, as opposed to just dumping your own money into it? Here at UNI, more than anywhere else, there's been some passionate donors that have stepped up and said, we want to see things done differently. If I were to give you money, what would you do with it? Have an answer for that, take them up on it, and then execute it. And we've done that a couple of different times with some things we've done. Because it's not for everyone, but I think there are some fans that, maybe the loud squeaky wheel sometimes, that, put your money where your mouth is, and we can make a real difference. And then just thinking creatively. I've said it a couple times, but that isn't always expensive. So I don't know, just maximize what you do have, but then don't accept what you have as what you're going to stay with, and just find ways to expand, I guess.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, appreciate the conversation. You guys are open books, and this is just really good direction and really good planning, and clearly you guys do your job really well, and you got your arms around a lot of different things here. So just appreciate you guys sharing your wisdom here, and hopefully those who tune in are definitely taking away some great valuable tidbits here. So appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Jeremy.
You got it. Well, best of luck this season, gents, and we look forward to keeping in touch. And if anyone had questions about some of the things, I'll put your, if it's okay with you guys, I'll put your emails in the show notes. They can always reach out to say hello and pick your brain on a question or two.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Thanks, gents.
All right. Thank you.
All right.